already we're trying to figure out ways of blending the practical and the digital.
Since we know you all love Stranger Things so much, we've decided to put together an ultimate behind-the-scenes guide to some of the most interesting aspects of the making of the series. Every series has a start, but how did Stranger Things become so successful? It's all about the right cast and changing with the times.
Let's do this!
Number 1. The heart of Stranger Things is its cast. Without the perfect dynamic between the 5 kids specifically, the series would not have been as successful. The first thing the Duffer Brothers did was hire casting director Carmen Cuba, and they did not even second guess her amazing abilities.
With the kids especially, it was about authenticity, and these kids felt like genuine kids.
Once she was able to nail down the series regulars, a couple of the kiddos reunited with some familiar faces at the table read. Both Gaten Matarazzo and Caleb McLaughlin knew each other before on Broadway, and later on for season 2, they caught up with Annie herself, Sadie Sink.
In most instances, Broadway had already discovered them.
David Harbour and Winona Ryder were shoo-ins to the casting director, but they were still asked to audition like everyone else. And as the seasons rolled on, casting was able to attract only the best of the best. Cough cough, Eddie Munson. Number 2. As the series evolves, so does the CGI budget, and this show had to prove they could earn that big budget.
As films get more expensive to make, studios and investors want it to be cheaper.
When the Duffer Brothers had their ideas for the Demogorgon, they were faced with the problem of a lower budget and very expensive CGI. VFX started with complex 3D models of the creature and pretty much nailed the design on their first try.
The level of detail in printers, I couldn't even imagine that you could actually get in a printer.
After the initial process, the question arose as to whether or not to make a suit or just make the creature digitally. After intense discussions, the brothers decided it was best to make a full CG character, due to the fact that not even the expert actor playing the monster could do it.
They realized that as they were moving on, it had to do things that a practical guy in a suit just can't do.
Number 3. Working with children on set can work one of 2 ways. You suck it up and deal with the hyperactivity, or you get cast next to some real professional kiddos and become a father figure. Well, that's exactly what happened when David Harbour was cast as Hopper. It started out a little rough for him in season 1, but as his character grew closer to the kids, so did he.
On a serious tip, I'm very protective of those kids.
Seriously though, he's a much better Papa than Papa will ever be to Eleven. Number 4. Joe Keery was a little too excited to beat the shadow monster out of Charlie Heaton, but being that Jonathan was never possessed by the shadow monster, it seemed like a good change of plan to have Heaton get some revenge on Steve. The Duffer Brothers originally had Jonathan being punched and pushed around by Steve, but to Jonathan's benefit, they changed it up for his character's arc. They went at this scene for a long time, and Keery actually received a few shiners from the incident. Luckily for Joe, he wasn't getting himself into too many tussles as the show went on.
I was like all swollen underneath the makeup, and it was...
Number 5. Okay, so season 1 was a massive success. Now the big boy's CGI budget is granted, and with that in mind, the VFX artists could now make the Shadow Monster. This massive creature was of course all digital, but how did they film Will's possession? Simple, create a green screen setup and have a young Noah Schnapp react. With season 2 as a whole, the CGI was upped substantially, all due to a very successful opening. And with that being said, we all know how amazing the VFX work was in seasons 3 and 4. Number 6. We guess we have Millie Bobby Brown to thank for this fan favorite moment. On the day they filmed the snowball dance, both Millie and Finn Wolfhard were ready to dance it up, but one person was not settling for the awkward middle school waltz. Millie wanted this moment for the fans. Right before they were about to film, she called the director over with a little kiss request. The director was unsure at the moment and only agreed with her over a loud megaphone.
Okay, Millie and Finn are gonna kiss!
In all seriousness, this gave Millie a sense of control over her character's journey, giving a lot more input to the Duffer Brothers to write the next seasons. Number 7. Season 3 was a big one. They included everything from the Upside Down Army to the complex underground lab. As CGI was only getting more involved as each season passed, this set in particular stayed practical. The actors sneaking into the Russian lab were shocked by its authenticity. This was one of the first times the Stranger Things cast experienced such a high level of production caliber, but they were not prepared for what was in store for season 4. Number 8. Sometimes productions just hire stunt people for the heck of it. And this time, Joe Keery was all in to throw down. And after his little brawl in season 1, stunt coordinators were more than confident he could fend for himself. With only a few hours of rehearsal for the scene in which Steve fights a Russian soldier, he was tossed in to roll with the punches. Joe, of course, nailed it after a few takes, but for that poor stuntman, he had to bash his head on a table each time. But he didn't go home empty-handed.
Each time they do it, I think they get paid. So they're like, you want to do it again? He's like, oh yeah, let's do it one more time.
Number 9. As the technology grew, the way to get a CGI monster got a whole lot easier to execute on set. What better than a beach ball to get the job done? We get that it's probably a little strange for a big production to use such a method, but we guess they ran out of tracking objects and just grabbed the first thing they could find. It certainly did the trick, and the actors looked genuinely scared of that beach ball. As silly as this sounds, it looks like production was going easy on those kiddos before bringing in the real Vecna for season 4. Number 10. So much work gets put into Stranger Things, so the sets of every season needed to be top-notch. Well, with each season, the more practical each set got. As season 4 began filming, production spent months creating everything practical that they could. They actually made 2 separate versions of the Creel house, then ending it with its semi-destructional look. A more interesting set was that of the Demogorgon Arena, which featured a fully practical design for the actors to survive in. There are tons of other set pieces to mention, but each one had the common factor of housing light well, as light is a very crucial aspect of the series in general. Number 11. When you're running up that CGI hill, there is no coming down. As they raised Sadie Sink on the day of this graveyard scene, it wasn't like the director said, "Sadie, just hop in the harness real quick." No, Sink was put through a lot of prep time in the rehearsal space for this, and on the day she was filming the scene on location, she nailed it.
Like, this is the most elaborate form of harnessing that I've ever done.
It's amazing to see Sadie Sink grow up so quickly, from skateboard stunts to harness stunts high up in the air. Number 12. The Duffer Brothers wanted their Night King, and visual effects artist Barry Gower was going to deliver.
They said to us, we want our own iconic villain. We need our Strange Things version of the Night King.
Since the Duffers wanted this creature to have humanoid features, Gower created a full cast of Bauer. He then created the suit material out of a soft, weighty material, cutting it up into sections. But not all of Vecna's suit was soft. They fitted Jamie with a quite uncomfy mechanical claw structure that fit into one of his hands. This gave the character those ominous claws to effectively take some teenager souls to the Upside Down. To top it all off, why not slather him in some lube?
Some of the other cast members, they'd come up, shake his hand and just regret it immediately.
Number 13. A scene like this requires everyone to hit their marks. If there's even one step wrong, it's back to 1. For that shootout scene in season 4, the director made sure to have lengthy rehearsals with the actors to make sure they hit every moment right. But unfortunately, if it can happen, it will happen. And just as they were about to get a perfect first take, one of the soldiers missed their mark and they had to go back and do it all over again. Although the initial filming was a little rough, it really did open the door of imagination for the crew. Would they have even attempted this in season 1? Number 14. How does one create Vecna's trippy hell lair? 1. A lot of CGI, and 2. A lot of fake blood. And now that their set design skills have evolved, the crew was really able to pour their hearts into this one. They built the main set practically, and filled in the rest with CGI. But Sadie Sink had a problem. No, it wasn't Vecna. Her main problem was running through a bunch of slippery fake blood that layered the soundstage. She got more of a workout in one day than she would have had in a whole week. Yikes. Number 15. Creating costumes for a series of the Stranger Things magnitude and creating backups for backup costumes only gets more stressful season after season. Costume designer Amy Paris considered every option carefully when dressing the characters. Specifically for season 4, Amy's job would get a lot more tedious. She gathered everything she knew regarding each character's mood and scene environment. Her coolest costume yet was her take on Eleven's outfit for the roller rink scene.
It dried, and it dried well, and so we actually used that, and that's the dress she's actually wearing.
Millie had personal input on the initial outfit design, but when it came time for the milkshake to be thrown, Paris had to make sure the real milkshake dried correctly on the outfit to make sure it kept fine during the rest of the scenes Brown wore it in. But what about her stunt doubles? Well, she assigned another designer to replicate the exact same stain for another outfit.
We had our Adria Dyer Gale paint an exact replica of the milkshake.
The team behind Stranger Things has revolutionized film production value for television shows. Who knew all that work would create a mere hour of each episode? Everything had to change as the kids grew up. And with the announcement of season 5, we can be sure they'll make it even bigger. Were you surprised by how they made a specific aspect of the series? If so, leave a comment below.